What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. It is finally time for more Premier League predictions. And let me just say, we have been smashing it since the Boxing Day fixtures up until this point. Since the last video a couple of days ago, we've had back-to-back accumulator wins with the Thursday treble of Atletico Madrid -1 handicap, Marseille to win over 1.5 goals. They ran riot in the French league, and Sporting to win halftime full-time at 4.41, and a six-fold with Le Havre, draw no bet. That was a push at 0-0, but all the others came in. Real Madrid to win, Burnley draw no bet, and then the perfect selection of goals, over 1.5 in both games that had only 2 goals, and over 2.5 goals in the game that had 3 goals for odds of 9.47. I do want to give a shout out to the 12 new members that have joined the channel using the join button or the link in the description since the last video. That is Millie G, Faddy Saber, Martin Eater, JJ Star, Richard Hughes, MJK, Trendy Lifestyle, Andres, Anish Ramani, Khalifia, Motivate, Inspire, and Shitan Bashkar. I hope you did enjoy and, in fact, get on the tips as well. Because of the nature of these fixtures, they're coming thick and fast. I don't know the result of most of the games from the previous round, but still, there's some great fixtures to be had. Kicking off, first of all, 2 teams that we do know what happened. Brentford up against Liverpool. I was very impressed with Brentford and the way they handled West Ham. I do think West Ham probably did deserve a goal, but Brentford got the lead and held on to it. And I think it's pretty outrageous to say that Brentford won't score against Liverpool in this fixture. I think Liverpool looking not potentially at their fluid best. They managed to beat Leicester thanks to 2 own goals, which is, I mean, that was just mental if you didn't see it. So I think Brentford are going to score, and I'm going to keep predicting what I've been predicting. I've predicted Liverpool and both teams to score in the last 2 weeks against Aston Villa and Leicester. It came in. I'm going to do the exact same thing. 2-1 to Liverpool, and my tip is Liverpool and both teams to score at odds of 3. Now, next up, one of the games of the week, definitely, for sure, Arsenal up against Newcastle. This is going to be very, very interesting because whilst Newcastle have been running riot, literally to the extent that Arsenal have been, the recent record between Arsenal and Newcastle is absolutely phenomenal. Arsenal have won something like 7 out of 8 of the last games between the two teams to 0. They barely concede against Newcastle, and they always seem to win. Obviously, this is a different Newcastle. This is just the way they're playing, the momentum they've got. They're going to score. I'm fairly certain of that. But Arsenal at the Emirates, I think they're going to do it. I think they are. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Arsenal. My tip is Arsenal to win at 1.83. I was going to go for both teams to score over 2.5 goals, but the fact that of all of the recent fixtures between the two teams, both teams haven't scored, it put me off the both teams to score over 2.5 goals. But it's definitely something I still would consider. But I think Arsenal to win at home at 1.8 is pretty good value. And I do think they are better than this Newcastle side. As good as Newcastle have been, Arsenal at home, you should really be backing Arsenal at home against anyone other than Man City, in my opinion. And I'm going to stick with that and go for an Arsenal 2-1 win. After that is Everton up against Brighton. I found this one really difficult to predict. I think Brighton on their day could beat Everton. I think Everton on their day, as few and far between as they come, at Goodison Park can beat pretty much anyone. So I've decided to sit on the fence here and go for a 1-1 draw. I was tempted to tip a draw, but you never do know. So I'm going to go for both teams to score at 1.8 because Everton-Wolves would have been a similar kind of game where you'd want to tip a draw, but then they conceded a late loser, making it 2-1. So both teams to score still came in. Got a lot to do today, so I'm going to try and rattle through these ones. After that, we have Leicester up against Fulham. Sounds mental to me. I'm going to go for a Leicester win. I think they're due a win at the King Power Stadium. Fulham are decent. I have predicted them to beat Southampton. That hasn't happened yet, and I'd assume they would. But I think it's got to be about time Leicester bounce back and sort of find that form that they had going into the World Cup break. So I'm going for a Leicester win. My tip is both teams to score at 1.66. Man United Bournemouth, the easiest one of the week. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win to Manchester United. I still think Bournemouth are going to get relegated. I'm going to go for Man United -1 handicap at 1.8. Obviously, remember the member asked about a Man United bet builder in their game against Nottingham Forest, and I basically just said a bunch of goals, Man United win, and Rashford to score one of them, and that came in. So similar narrative here to the Nottingham Forest game. 3-0 win to Manchester United at Old Trafford. After that, Southampton up against Forest. Their last win coming up against Bournemouth, 1-0. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Southampton. Nottingham Forest away record in the league. Their scoring record is not really that great at all. I do think Southampton are capable of beating this Forest side, and if you can't beat Nottingham Forest at home, you're destined to get relegated. So this is a big chance for them. I was tempted to tip Southampton to win about evens, but I've gone even more conservative. Southampton double chance and under 3.5 goals at 1.66. So that's 1-2, 3-0 to Southampton, 2-1 to Southampton, 0-0, and 1-1, all on your side. I struggle to see how any other scoreline happens unless it's like a 1-0 Forest smash and grab, which I don't see happening, to be honest. So I'm siding Southampton in this one. Leeds against West Ham. I think West Ham, like I said, is unlucky not to score against Brentford in that fixture. But Leeds, West Ham, I think it's going to be a really close game, and the odds suggest that. I'm going to go for a high-scoring, entertaining game. I think West Ham will finally score. I'm going to go for 2-2. Sounds mental after they just blanked against Brentford, but I don't think it was crazy of me to predict a 2-2 draw between West Ham and Brentford, and we correctly predicted that Leeds would lose to Manchester City 3-1. So I feel like I've got a decent grasp here. I'm going for 2-2. My tip is both teams to score at 1.61. Next up, it is Aston Villa against Wolves. I'm actually just going to go for a home win. 2-1, Aston Villa. They had a good couple of results here. They beating Brighton and Man United. I mean, they were really good in that game against Man United, by the way, as well. I do think Aston Villa are going to be able to beat Wolves at Villa Park, and they should. So my tip is outright Aston Villa to win at evens. Next up, it's Selhurst Park. Crystal Palace up against Tottenham. I'm once again going to go for a 2-1 win to Tottenham. Tottenham seem to have this issue where they start really slow. So potentially you could look at the, Palace halftime, Tottenham full-time market would be really interesting. Tottenham to win from behind, Tottenham to win and both teams to score. But a Tottenham team that have just essentially dropped points to Brentford, even though they came from 2 goals down, they need to get a win to maintain the pressure on what's above them, rather than having to look out behind them at the likes of Liverpool and Man United. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Tottenham. My tip is Tottenham to win at 2.15. I think they are capable of doing that. Next up, it is Chelsea up against Manchester City. I think Man City are going to win this one. I don't think it's going to be as incredible as these games sometimes can be. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to Manchester City. My tip is Man City to win. I think the 1.65 is good enough. Chuck it in a sort of accumulator. I think that's fair enough. And this, as you can see, I made this prediction on the 26th of August, a postponed game, I assume. I said 3-1 to Chelsea against Fulham. That's not a bad shout. I might go 2-1. So basically what this season has suggested to me is that Fulham are a bit better than I thought they were at the start of the season, and Chelsea are a little bit worse, which sounds about right, especially considering you can see that Fulham and Chelsea are fairly close together in the table. So I'll go 2-1 for that replayed fixture in a week's time. So as you can see, these are my picks. If I had to pick my favourite ones, it would probably be Manchester United -1 handicap, Man City to win, and I'd probably just leave it at that, to be honest. A nice little Manchester double, odds of about 3. Looking pretty tasty. But nevertheless, that is going to do it for this video. If you did enjoy it, please do drop a like, leave your comments down in the comments below. If you want to join the channel, support the channel, and get exclusive members, tips, and accumulators, feel free to click the join button. And thank you so much for an amazing 2022 on the Full 90. I started this back in 2018 as just a pure hobby. You can go back and see the videos, and I'm so glad that I'm still doing it because I still really enjoy it. I love football, and I've got the World Cup 2018 to thank for that got my love for football back, because I really loved it as a kid. Sort of got out of it for a bit, and then once you get out of it, you kind of, it's hard to get back into it initially because you've got all these new players, all these new teams, everything you need to get caught up on. But now I feel very caught up, very in the loop, having had done this for a few years, and I'm so glad that you've been here as well. So I hope you have a safe and amazing new year, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.